Hello, I'm Lee Hawkins. Joel Ward is a winger for the Washington Capitals who recently scored a game-winning goal in overtime to knock the Boston Bruins out of the running for the NHL playoffs. The goal was marred by some angry Bruins fans who tweeted racist epithets about Ward only seconds later. I sat down with Ward Tuesday at the Capitals practice facility, where he talked about the incident and his years-long effort to bring more young black athletes into the game. Here are some of the excerpts of that exclusive interview. First of all, what happened that night? You scored the goal, your teammates totally mobbed you, but how did you find out about the tweets, and then how did you immediately feel?
Yeah, my teammate Jeff Halpern and I came back on the plane, and I was talking to my brother on the phone. He was the first person I called after the game to talk over about the big goal, and Jeff Halpern came up to me, and he kind of, tried to give me a heads up of saying, if anything you need, and he's got my back. That there's been a few text messages going out since I scored from Bruins fans, racial slurs. So I had no idea. Obviously, I was on the plane, so I didn't really get service or any connection. But once I got home, I took a look online and saw a few tweets of some pretty harsh words for sure that was unexpected. And then the next day I woke up and it was just blown up for sure from there.
Yeah, how did you feel?
For me personally, I was surprised, or I guess a little shocked, I guess. But deep down inside, I mean, I'm a black player playing a white man's game. I kind of know what I've kind of signed up for all these years growing up playing hockey. I've been through a few instances when I was younger, nothing major, but I mean, I know it's always going to be there, so I wasn't too surprised. I think for me is a lot of my teammates were probably more surprised than I was. I think it's a good way. I think, to be honest, with the positive out of it is I want to let them know that they can see the differences and the aspect of what happened is I end up scoring a goal that everybody else on the ice was trying to do, and somehow it became a negative spin because of the color of my skin. And a lot of guys, it was an eye-opener, I'm sure, for a lot of guys to show that it does happen. This is part of the struggles of being a black guy growing up, and it's unfortunate to see what still goes on. But again, I'm not surprised. So a lot of people are always asking me, how can you shook it off so well, or how'd you take it so easily? Again, I've just been some part of life, and it is what it is to me. And growing up in Toronto, it's.
Well, yeah, take me back because you did seem to be unfazed to some extent. I don't know if it's maybe you're just a strong person with a strong exterior like that, but it seemed like maybe you had experienced it already in your life. Take me back to when you were a young kid playing hockey in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple instances when you're kids, you're playing in tournaments, and kids will be saying certain remarks, and growing up, and you always wonder. I mean, at the time of growing up, I had no idea what the words meant or what the terminology was, what they were for. But I knew that they were targeting me because of the color of my skin, and I remember coming home a couple of times and asking my parents, my mother, how come they're. They'd say stuff to me and not nobody else, and not really getting the background of why I couldn't understand. Growing up, I loved the game, so I'd pick up the stick like everybody else, and I'd play street hockey for hours.
How did you get into the game?
My two older brothers were the ones that I initially watched growing up, but our family got introduced to the game through Kevin Weeks and his family. Both of his parents are from Barbados, and they got that background, same as mine. So. My parents knew his parents well back home, and again, it was for them to introduce the game. Kevin was always the guy on the street. He was always the guy that played hockey, and he played all the sports at the elite level. And so my brothers looked up to that and got into the game slowly. And I was just a little kid around the rinks following my brothers and watching them. And when I got the opportunity, and when they would finish with the gear, they kind of passed it down to me once they grew out of it. And I just took it and ran with it and enjoyed it ever since and loved the game. And it's been great to me.
And you actually come from a neighborhood in which a lot of NHL players that actually happen to be black come from. Tell me about that.
Yeah, there's a little nest of us, I guess, in Scarborough, back home in Toronto, and Wayne Simmons in Philadelphia, and the Stewart brothers, Anthony and Chris. are both playing, and it's good to see we all trained together last summer, and I got a chance to hang out with them quite a bit and really get to know them on a more of a personal level than the hockey side, which was it was good for us. It was good for us to kind of spread the word, and for the other kids that are watching us and they kind of see us in our own little trainings, facilities, and spots, and you know, we try to spread the game as much as we can.
Yeah, it seems like you really want to invite more people of different backgrounds into the game of hockey. Why is that important?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, for us, it's, you know, it's an honor. We take pride in what we're doing. We just want to let kids know that it's hockey is for everybody, and you know, we try to spread as much as we can. We love the game. We want to just share and give different avenues for kids. You know, growing up is always basketball and football and other sports, and we just hockey. You know, just because it is a predominantly white sport, we're still, you know, we can sign up and play too, and that means a lot. That means a lot of what we're carrying for us and in our neighborhoods and for our families too. Is we take a lot of pride, and especially with our West Indian culture, we try to spread the word to a lot of kids, and we look forward to keep it moving from there. So. But again, a lot of kids are just, you know, for us is different obstacles, and you come across different things in life, and hockey was one avenue that was a positive aspect in our lives, and especially for mine. And you know, a lot of kids I knew growing up was I'd say a lot more talented, and growing up and had more skill, I guess, and I just definitely chose a different path. And that's what kind of led me here today, and I'm very thankful for that. And I've been surrounded by good people and good friends and family.
It's interesting because you say that there were kids that actually had more skill than you did. Why didn't they make it?
Some went left and I went right. I mean, I think after a certain age, I guess when high school comes around and you know, parties and girls and et cetera, and all these things come up, and just some guys just chose a different path. And I really loved the game. I was a sports junkie growing up. I loved hockey. I loved all other sports. But, I mean, I'd sit home and watch Saturday Night Maple Leafs hockey all the time, and my family would sit down. And my father was a big inspiration to me. And even though he was from Barbados originally, he was still a hockey fan. And Stan Mikita was his favorite player. And I've never seen tape of Stan Mikita play in my life. But every time Chicago Blackhawks would come in town, my dad always get me tickets to go to those games, and I didn't get a chance to see Stan Mikita play, but for some reason the Blackhawks was always with him, and that just transferred onto me. Is going to Maple Leaf Gardens, and memories like that for me was very big, and you always wanted to, you know, you always hoped to get a chance to play at that level.
And just to be fair, I'd like to read some statements here. The NHL issued a series of statements. They called the comments, quote, ignorant and unacceptable, and said, quote, the people responsible for these comments have no place associating themselves with our game, unquote. The Bruins said, these classless, ignorant views are in no way a reflection of anyone associated with the Bruins organization. And your team owner, Ted Leonsis, said that he has, quote, zero tolerance for this kind of hate mongering. You said that you were not bothered by it. Did those statements help you in any way?
I mean, it definitely helped from the organization, and then knowing that they got my back and they support the scenario and the case. I think a lot of it, people are just kind of surprised at my reactions because I'm just not really that shocked about it, of the comment.
Right.
So I definitely do appreciate the support and everybody understanding the situation. It's just, again, I'm a black man playing a predominantly white sport, and it is what it is. Okay. Exactly. So
and you have a degree in sociology, which we're going to talk about. So you've studied these issues.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I've come across these issues. I've actually had a couple of great profs in university, which I'm very proud of, University of Prince Edward Island. And I was able to get my 4-year degree, which I'm very proud of and excited for, and a BA in sociology. But again, I've come across a lot of different issues, and race is a topic that a lot of people want to ask questions, but not necessarily tackle and give solutions to. And
why is that in terms of where we are in America today?
It's a good question. That's a good question. I think it's people are just afraid, and knowing that deep down inside the truth is, I think it's just an issue that will always be there for me personally. I think it'll always be there. You just try to, I guess in hockey, the NHL's done a good job of trying to eliminate as much as they can from it. They've had a different task force and different groups and discussions about it. But I think it just will always be there, and that's just the way society is. I think the people are just still in that mentality of, I guess getting an opportunity for everyone to succeed. And I think you're just going to have haters, and that's just going to go on forever.
And you mentioned earlier that you thought it was important to help to diversify the sport of hockey. Is that fair? I don't want to put those words in your mouth. Is that a role that you'd like to play?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Do you see a time in which maybe people of color will be half and half in the NHL, or maybe even the majority, like in the NFL and the NBA?
Well, definitely the goal is to strive to get as many involved, for sure. It's slowly getting there. It's uplifting to see somebody of your color out there doing something in a positive manner when he's kind of the outnumbered individual out there, for sure. I mean, we've all watched sports, and I ask a lot of black kids, you ever play hockey? You ever watch? No, they have never seen.
Why not? Why isn't it a big?
Part of it is resources too. Hockey is a pretty expensive sport, and a lot of urban communities, they just don't have the funding for it and the resources to get around that. And so it's our job to, the way that we've been treated growing up is people found a way for us. So it's kind of our turn to give back, to encourage kids and to introduce them to the game. It's not necessarily just the fact of playing hockey, but it's just something positive and give them something to strive for and look forward to, that knowing that there's different avenues. I've always talked to kids about, it's not just about playing hockey, but it's just having goals and achieving those goals. And regardless if it's hockey, basketball, being a teacher or a policeman or whatever it is, that you can obtain those goals with the right attitude.
If there were more black players, and it seems to be inevitable that there will there be more racial taunts, or do you think it will die down?
No, I think it'll die down. The more you got, you're kind of pushing back, saying, listen, this is a game where a lot of minorities now, and I think you don't get it as or at least I don't hear it more in like sports, in football and other sports where there's a lot of black players playing. And so I definitely think the more you're playing, the more you're saying, hey, hockey is for, again, everyone, and it gives opportunity for everyone to play.
And just a couple more. I want to talk a little bit about your career, because you have an interesting backstory. You did not go straight from the NHL, straight into the NHL from college. You got a degree in sociology. You were never drafted. You played hard and you made it in there. What was it like trying to make the NHL from the minors for 3 years?
Long. It was just a process. I knew once I was coming out of college, it was different hockey, and once you're playing pro, you're dealing with bigger guys and a faster pace. And I always told myself, if I can get to the minors in the American League, I'd give myself a chance to maybe play in the NHL. And once I got there in Houston, my eyes lit up, and I knew I had a good opportunity of just keep working hard, and hopefully I get a couple of good bounces and a little bit of luck on my side, and things could work out. And
it worked out for you.
Yeah, it did.
You got a 4-year contract worth $3 million a year. Mm-hmm. Sudden fame and fortune can be hard on guys. I've seen it firsthand. But did it help you that you had that transition into NHL level hockey?
I think so, and I think growing up in that process of going to school and then being in the minors, you learn a lot about yourself and pro sports. How it works. It's a business, and a sport second. Which, growing up as a kid, you just always wanted just to play the game, and now there's a different side of it. So I think the background that I took and the path that I took is definitely was educational. Once you get to this level, to expect from people, from your organization, from fans, teammates, etc. So, but it was a good learning, and that thing that keeps me driven and humble at the same time of trying to achieve more.
What do you see yourself doing in your post-career?
I was hoping to teach or become a police officer, to be honest, but I think coaching is something that I think I've learned a lot of hockey over the years, of different coaches and different styles, that I think I have a good knowledge, a good background of the game that I'd love to share with other kids, and and that way it'll get into other kids of minority backgrounds to see if I'm coaching, it helps them out, and that's where I like to be at, is coaching for sure.